Okay, today we're going to finish off the NFC North and the NFC in general with talking about the standings, what I think about the NFC North, and I'm at the end of this video I'll talk about what I think the standings are for the NFC in general. So, this is Son of a Sports. Let's get into it. Okay, I think everyone's pick for the NFC North is the Lions, and they're mine as well. I'm really high on them. Jared Goff proved last year that him and Ben Johnson together is a really good offensive system. He might not be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, but he can be a top 12 quarterback in the NFL, and he can still be really good. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, they used them both really well last year, and I anticipate they use them the exact same way this year. Looking at Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Khalif Raymond is their current guy. ESPN has as wide receiver 3. I don't think that'll be the case. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I think he'll have a better chance this year to flourish with them, specifically because he got traded like mid-season, I think, and he'll have an offseason to develop more with them and see what's there. Sam Laporta played really good his rookie year. I think Jameson Williams, given the chance, will prove that he is a good, very, very good player. He showed that in the NFC Championship. When given the opportunity and put the ball in his hands, he will cook. Looking at the offensive line, losing Jonah Jackson was one thing, but also getting Kevin Zeitler fills that hole, at least for now. Long term, I mean, this isn't about long term. This is about this season. So, yeah, look, that's a good player to fill in that hole. Frank Ragnow, I mean, he's had injury concerns the last few years, but he'll be fine. Glasgow's a fine guard. The tackles of this team, that's their specialty. Penei Sewell is one of the best right tackles, best tackles in the NFL, and Taylor Decker is a really, really good left tackle. Looking at the defense, I think one of the most underrated pickups of the offseason, if he can be healthy, or if he can come back from his injury, DJ Reader. I really love him. He's one of the most underrated guys in the NFL, and he was huge for the Bengals defense when healthy. Putting him right next to Lee McNeil in this system, I really like it. Aiden Hutchinson played really well last year. Marcus Davenport, I know a lot of Lions fans are high on him, or Lions analysts too. I think he'll be fine. He was a first-round pick before, and he'll be good in a rotation with James Houston. Right now, ESPN's depth chart has James Houston as linebacker 3. Emmanuel Mosley's the linebacker for the Lions. That's interesting. Oh, that's corner. My fault. Their linebacker room, Jack Campbell, he played good and decent his rookie year, so I anticipate him being better. I don't anticipate their linebackers being bad. They're a middle-of-the-pack group. Looking at their secondary, though, Carlton Davis, that was a good trade. Emmanuel Mosley, I just brought him up as a linebacker. Brian Branch proved his rookie year. He's really good, and given the chance in this strong safety role, I think he'll be even better. Kirby Joseph, still a really good safety. I like him a lot. Terrion Arnold, an incredible pick, getting the number 1 corner in this draft class. Ennis Rakestraw's currently their second nickelback. Amik Robinson's their first, so we'll see what happens there. But I like their defense. I really do. I think this defense is really good. Their play calling is really good defensively. And their strength of schedule next year is around like 21. So if I predict today what they're going to be in the NFC, I'm going to say the 2nd seed or the 1st seed. They're going to be right there with the 49ers. I think I'm going to give them I think I'm going to say they go get 13 wins, 13-3. That's my prediction for them. Okay, looking at the Packers, Jordan Love proved last year he is their franchise guy going forward. Even though half the year he struggled, I don't think that will be the case this year. I think their offense realized some things, and moving forward, I think they'll be really good. Josh Jacobs, looking at how he was last year, it's going to be interesting to see because that offensive line with the Raiders was not bad, but they were like the statistically worst rushing offense with him. In the year before then, he was the leading rusher in the NFL. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there, but I think it'll be good with them. I think the Packers have a good rushing O-line. We'll just have to wait and see. Their receiving core, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Datavion Wicks, that's pretty good. That's a good middle-of-the-pack core that you can trust in. And then Luke Musgrave was like a third round, or I think it was a second-round pick. So this group should be pretty good for Jordan Love. They were really good against the Cowboys, ripped the Cowboys. Then look at their offensive line. I mean, it's fine. Elton Jenkins is good. Zach Tom is good. Sean Rion's fine. Rasheed Walker, that's going to be interesting. Jordan Morgan, they drafted him. I bet they move him to guard down the line just because of his arms. But, yeah, let's talk about the defense because this defense on paper is still really good. And they changed it up. They got Boston College's head coach to be their defensive coordinator. So they're not going to have, or at least as of now, there's not a thought that their scheme could be bad. Looking at who's on the roster, though, Preston Smith, Devontae Wyatt, who I think will take another step this year, Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary, all of these guys are established outside of Devontae Wyatt, who I think could take another step. Lucas Van Ness showed his rookie year that he could be really good in the rotation. They just have to give him a chance, and he wasn't really given that his rookie year. Quay Walker and Edgerrin Cooper is a really good linebacker duo. Isaiah McDuffie, I haven't seen much of him. Hold on. Yes, okay, so he's been with them for a while. I just have not paid attention to him, I'm sorry. But Quay Walker and Edgerrin Cooper. Edgerrin Cooper was someone I looked at a lot in this draft class. Linebackers were weak, and I'm a Texas A&M fan, so I know a lot about him. And Texas A&M was a highly productive offense or defense this last year, and he's the main reason for it. I think he's going to help a lot next to Quay Walker. Looking at their secondary, Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes, and Keyshawn Nixon. Kalen King is in that rotation. He's a backup. Okay, that's interesting because he did fall to the 6th round. Their corners are still a question mark. Eric Stokes has been hurt a lot, and when he's played ever since he's come back from injury, outside of his rookie year, he's been decent. Jair Alexander has his games where he looks like a god, and then everyone thinks he's a god, but there's moments where he struggles too. Looking at their safeties, though, this was a safety room last year that was the worst in the NFL, and now they're one of the best because of assigning Xavier McKinney as their free safety and drafting Javon Bullard to be their strong safety. That was a really, really, really cool move of them to do. I'm going to predict that this team goes, I'm going to say 11-6 next year. I really am high on this Packers team, and I think they found a formula to go out and go get it. Yes, I do have the Bears as the 3rd team in the NFC North. I'm a guy that always likes the Vikings, but I think I'm going to take the Bears here because of their schedule compared to the Vikings schedule. In terms of the NFC North, the Lions and the Packers have the 21st and where are the Packers? I think the Packers have the 19th easiest schedule in the NFL. So they're on the harder side of the NFL. Vikings have the 28th hardest schedule, and the Bears have the 3rd easiest schedule, or the 28th easiest schedule. They have the 4th hardest schedule for the Vikings. So looking at the Bears roster, let's just get into that first. Caleb Williams, everyone has their opinions about Caleb Williams. I like Caleb Williams a lot. I wonder how he's going to look his rookie year. We'll get into that part. DeAndre Swift and Rashawn Johnson is a good running back tandem. I know DeAndre Swift has his issues in terms of vision, how he runs up the field, but Khalil Herbert's still in that rotation. So if DeAndre Swift, there are issues there, you go to Khalil Herbert because he's still pretty good. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Roma Dunze, everyone's talked about them. I don't need to add much more other than this is a really good receiving core, and I'll talk about how play calling works with that in a minute. Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett is a good tight end rotation. This is a lot of help for a rookie quarterback. I love Caleb Williams, and I'll be fair in evaluating him, but this is a lot of help. Let's be honest. Braxton Jones, Tevin Jenkins, Colton Shelton, that's probably their main hole on the offensive line. Nate Davis and Darnell Wright. That's a decent offensive line. Braxton Jones probably will look a lot better. I've heard a lot of people say Braxton Jones only looks bad a lot of the time because Justin Fields doesn't know how to navigate the pocket, and it forces Braxton Jones to be in tough situations. Darnell Wright, his rookie year, was really freaking good, and a lot of people were hyped up about him. Tevin Jenkins is still a really good guard. Nate Davis was a guy they got 2 years ago that a lot of people thought could be a good rotational guy. Kieran, I'm not going to try to butcher his name. I believe he's from Yale. He's the guy from Yale. He'll probably get moved to guard later down the line, but I really like that draft pick. That was their 3rd round draft pick. I really liked it. Looking at the defense, or actually, let me continue talking about the offense real quick. Their offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, I have a lot of concerns with him because of how he made Geno look last year. People think Geno's a scrub, even though he played good in a bad offensive system last year. And he didn't really know, and Shane Waldron didn't really know how to utilize slot corners or slot receivers, and that was really interesting to see because, well, how is Keenan Allen going to fit in this system as a slot receiver if Shane doesn't know how to use him properly? We'll have to wait and see, but there are some question marks in terms of coaching. Looking at the defense, though, DeMarcus Walker, they're going to have to improve on the D-line on the other edge, but Andrew Billings and Gervon Dexter Sr., that's fine up the interior, one of the weaker units in the NFL. Montez Sweat is very good, and he proved that last year with the Commanders and the Bears. I really like that. TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, I criticized those signings. Those were their 2 big signings the offseason that they were going to help get Justin Fields some actual help. But they really proved to be really good. And Sanborn did not look that bad either as the other linebacker with him. Jalen Johnson, Tyreek Stevenson, and Kyler Gordon. It's a pretty good corner rotation. One of the best in the NFL. I'm not going to lie. And then looking at safeties, Jaquan Brisker and Kevin Byard the third. what else can you say about that? That's a pretty good safety room. Jonathan Owens is their backup safety, which is also interesting to see. He was mid with the Packers. That's probably the best. That's the nicest I can be about that. But Jaquan Brisker and Kevin Byard III, even though Kevin struggled with the Eagles, I think that was a lot of scheme issues. I think those two could be really, really good in this defense. I think this defense is still going to be really good compared to last year. Like, they were really good last year. They'll be really good this year. And coaching-wise, that's my main question with this roster. They do have a rookie quarterback. Don't get me wrong. But coaching is going to be – that's going to be the biggest question this year with the Bears. Like, at the end of the year, if things go wrong and they don't make the playoffs, or they don't even – let's say they go like 5-12. It's going to be because of coaching. Coaching will probably be the biggest issue this year. Looking down at their schedule, though, I mean, they start the year with Tennessee, Houston, Indianapolis, LA, Carolina, and Jacksonville. That's 4 pretty tough defenses in there, maybe 5 tough defenses. Those are some strong teams to face before your bye in Week 7. You get a really early bye, which is interesting. Then you got to go to Washington. You got to go to Arizona. Then you face New England and Green Bay, Minnesota at home. These are some tough stretches this year. You're going to face some tough teams. You even face San Francisco and Detroit like twice in the last 5 weeks, 6 weeks. It's going to be interesting for sure. I'm really excited to see this team. I'm really excited to see Caleb Williams. So what I'll say for my record prediction, I think I'm going to go 9-8. Just because of how easy the strength of schedule is for him. Like how, even though looking at the schedule, it seems harder than what strength of schedule says. I think I'm going to lean towards 9-8 for this team. I'm really high on them. I'm really high on Caleb Williams. And their over-under right now for the line is 8.5. So, yeah. Okay. Like I said, they have the 4th hardest schedule in the NFL. And I couldn't give the Vikings a higher, seeding here. It's hard because they don't know their answer at quarterback yet. Sam Darnold will probably be the starter entering next year with all the reports about J.J. McCarthy just looking like a rookie. And he's young. He's 20 years old, I think. Or he'll be like 21 to start the season. So it's fine that he isn't perfect right away. Yeah, he's 21. So it's fine that he's not perfect and starting right away. And I wouldn't start him right away with how this schedule's looking. Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler's a fine running back core. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. Justin Jefferson's the best receiver in the NFL. Jordan Addison was very good as a rookie. I think he led all rookies in receiving touchdowns. Maybe Puka beat him. But Brandon Powell's a fine third option at receiver, I think. How much did he have last year? 300 yards? Yeah, they'll have to address that next offseason. T.J. Hawkinson, Josh Oliver, and Robert Tonyan. T.J. Hawkinson's really good, and I hope he's coming back from an ACL injury fine. Christian Darrisaw, Brian O'Neill's really good at tackles. Dalton Risner's fine. Garrett Bradbury's a good center. Their issue is they have the worst starting right guard in the NFL, and Ed O'Neill. It's bad. And in terms of offensive play calling, I think they'll have a good offensive play calling. They'll look better than they probably should. And then speaking of looking better than you probably should, it's the defense. I did a whole another take of recording this where I realized halfway through, okay, yeah, this defensive line is actually pretty good. And ESPN's depth chart makes it look like it's horrible, but Van Ginkel coming off the edge, Grenard coming off the edge, and then you have Dallas Turner in the rotation. Jerry Tillery is how they list him as the starter right now, which is really interesting. Harrison Phillips still has some game left to him. Jonathan Bullard as well. Like, this is a good rotation, and I don't have questions about their edge rushers at least. Evan Pace Jr., Blake Cashman, that is some pretty good linebackers that you'll have in there. Blake Cashman was really, really freaking good last year. So there's that. Then you have Byron Murphy Jr. at corner. And then Shaquille Griffin, Shaquille Griffin has struggled the last few years now. Josh Metellus was really good last year as a young nickelback. And Cameron Bynum, I think Cameron Bynum was really good last year. Harrison Smith probably has one more year left in him. And yeah, I think this defense will look better. I think it'll be a top 13 defense than they should. Just like last year, they were one of the better the top half of defenses in the NFL, I believe, at least to start the year, even though they shouldn't have. I think, yeah. So the young secondary group is a little bit of concerning just because that's not young. Byron Murphy Jr. looked good. Josh Metellus was good, and Cameron Bynum was good. They don't have anyone outside of Byron Murphy Jr. at main left and right corner. Josh Metellus is nickel, and then Cameron Bynum is safety. So they have these guys spread out that are pretty much only all they have left, including outside of Harrison Smith. Then looking at the schedule, let's just talk about that real quick. They play New York week 1, the Giants, I should say, and that's a hard defense to play. Whether the Daniel Jones jokes exist or not, that's still a hard defense. for anyone to play. Then you have San Francisco, Houston, Green Bay, then the Jets before your bye in week 6. So you get a really early bye, so you'll be exhausted towards the end of the year when you start getting a little bit easier schedule. But at that point, you already played 5 of the hardest hitting defenses in the NFL. Then you go off your bye and play Detroit, the Rams, the Colts, and then Jacksonville will probably be the easiest defense you face in the first 10 weeks of the season. That sucks. That's hard. Then you come out of that, Tennessee, Chicago, Arizona, Atlanta, Chicago, Seattle, Green Bay, Detroit. So to finish the year, you got to go Chicago, Seattle, Green Bay, and Detroit. That's a pretty hard schedule to end the year off when you're exhausted and you didn't have a break for around 10 weeks. So yeah, this is a lot for our team. Looking at it across the board, though, I'm still going to put them at the bottom of this. Like, their line right now is 6.5 wins. I'll put them at, I'll say 7-10. They don't know, they can't start JJ right away, and if they do, he'll be in a hard situation, and he'll be a rookie. That's what every report's saying. The best described JJ McCarthy and how he looks in practice right now, a rookie. So yeah, let's talk about it as a whole. So that's the NFC North. Lions, Packers, Bears, Vikings. The Vikings I should be higher on in any other year just because I think this is a team that has good coaching that can push the roster that doesn't have every piece filled to more wins. But this is a really hard schedule and a really hard schedule to start the year. So situationally, I don't know. Looking at the Bears, I'm probably a little too high on them saying that they'll get 9 wins this year, but I like their team. I really do. Coaching is the main issue with this team, and coaching can always tank a season for a team. But for now, I'm going to assume that they're still really good. Like I said, for the Packers, 11-6, they might have a hiccup here and there throughout the year just because that's the Packers. They always have some random game that they're just horrible in, and it's typically at the start of the year. Looking at the Lions, though, I think they're really good across all fronts. I do. I really do. They probably still have one more question in there, and they'll probably trade for it at the trade deadline. But yeah, that's my NFC North. Let's talk about the NFC as a whole. Okay, these are my standings. The on the cusp is the teams that are out of the playoffs but could make it. So I don't love making definite standings, and that's what this whole process has been, making definite records. I think the Lions and 49ers are neck and neck around 13-3, 14-2. I think the Eagles are the same. I think they get around 12-5, but they win the division somehow. Then the Falcons, I think they go 11-6. I think the Rams, just because they didn't win their division, I think they're 11-6. Cowboys the same. They could do a 12-5, and the Eagles could get 13-3, and it's just that it's right there. I don't think the Cowboys are like the Eagles have just done so much better this offseason compared to the Cowboys. And I think there's so much cultural issues around the Cowboys this year that they're just not going to be able to win the NFC East. And there's a chance that they miss the playoffs. Because look, like this report the other day about Micah Parsons and the safety for the Cowboys. That is a issue. That is a serious issue that Malik goes on a podcast and says, hey, I want Micah to be focused and all that. And Micah takes a personal offense to it. Micah sounds a little focused, and he sounds like he's a part of this process. But Malik Hooker saying that about Micah, it's weird. It's weird that a teammate said that on a podcast about another teammate. Then the Packers at the 7th seed. They could overtake the Cowboys there. They could overtake the Rams. They're a good team. 11-6. This NFC race is so close because it's just the top teams that are like, that's it. The AFC, it's like a bloodbath across the board. The top 7 teams, we know the top 7 teams, and then we look at the Bucks, Saints, Bears, and Seahawks. I think those are teams that could make the playoffs just because something could happen. The Bears, Caleb Williams could be better than we thought for a rookie. Coaching could be better than we thought it could be. The Bucks were like a quarter away from looking like they could make the NFC Championship a year ago, so I'm not going to really count them out like that. Looking at the Saints, they still almost made the playoffs last year, and they sucked. And there's still issues, but the roster's still – they still try to go all in for the playoffs. And then the Seahawks, I think coaching could be a lot better than people realize. Could improve this roster a lot better than people realize. But yeah, that's my NFC. Let's move on to something next. I'll catch y'all next time. This is Son of a Sports.